Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Ann Morrow, your co-host of the show. These shows focus on bicycling in general and bicycle safety in particular. We air live on the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. on Channel 11. You can view the replays on Channel 23, and at least one replay will air on Channel 11. I'd like to extend a special thanks to Northwest Bicycle Safety Council for providing today's meal for our show crew volunteers. Our guest is Dr. Marilyn Weber. Marilyn is a gynecologist, avid runner, and a long-distance cyclist. We will be discussing the transition from running to bicycling, bicycle safety, how to get a ride started in your own neighborhood, cross-training, and the importance of having fun on your rides, and nutrition. For inquiries about the show, you can contact me through Northwest Bicycle Safety Council website, and the websites will appear on your TV screen throughout the show. And now here's the host of our show, Bruce Buffington.
Well, thank you, Ann. And how have you been since the last show?
I've been well, Bruce. Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you back. And our guest is Marilyn Weber. And Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot in store for our viewers tonight. And so we're going to start off with Marilyn's running experience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I've been running for probably 25 years, and in the past 10 years started more cycling, and starting with spinning classes, and I think you and I were in a class together.
I remember that for a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and then I've been cycling on the road for probably about 6 years.
Now, the spinning classes, those seem to get me prepared for some goals I had. Is that the reason you were taking spinning, was if you had a goal in mind to prepare for?
Yeah, it was. I think I started doing that just to get out of the monotony of running, and just kind of kept going with it because I really enjoyed the benefits from doing that class.
And so what kind of spinning have you been involved in, Ann?
Not too much. I haven't done too much spinning. What different muscle groups did that work, did you think, the spinning compared to the running? What differences did you have?
For me, I have a heavy heel strike when I run, so I use a lot of hamstring strength, and felt like when I first started spinning, my quadriceps, the muscles in the front of my legs, were a lot weaker, and it really seemed to balance things out by doing both activities.
Now, I've never been a runner, but I am a Volkswalker, which, you know, those walks are about 10K on average. And then every year I do a half marathon. And I noticed that there were different muscles that were just aching like crazy that I don't feel when I'm cycling or spinning. Is that the experience that you're talking about?
Absolutely, yeah. And walking, again, uses even different muscles. So it's good to just kind of keep a well-rounded approach to all aspects of fitness. And
so you're a motorist as well.
Yes, I am.
So tell us about your experience being a motorist and when you encounter joggers and bicyclists out there on the road. How does that work for you?
Well, I think from being on the road more on a bicycle, it's made me a lot more aware as a motorist. And like I was talking to Ann earlier, I think I wish everyone who drove a car had the experience of also being on the road with cars going by. You have a much greater appreciation for safety, both as a motorist and for your planning your rides as a cyclist.
Now, when some of our viewers, they might think, well, when I'm in a car, you know, I see these bicyclists out there and those darn bicyclists, but all of us drive. And how about your experience out there as a motorist as well?
Well, I think I agree with Marilyn that being a motorist, a pedestrian, a bicyclist, I think you have a lot more empathy for the other groups, and just being a little more cognizant of where they are and what they might be thinking, and realizing that you're, as a pedestrian or cyclist, you're not necessarily visible to them, so you tend to ride a little more defensively maybe, instead of just assuming they're going to see you.
So in some cases, you're not just a bicyclist, you're a motorist, you're a pedestrian, and as part of being a pedestrian, you're a jogger out there. And so it's not just those bicyclists. We're not just a group, and that's all we do is cycle. Is that what you kind of perceive?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the attitude. Well, now, how often do you ride these days, and what general areas do you start from?
Well, I live in Washington County, so most of our rides occur out in more rural Washington County when we're doing just our regular weekly rides. We probably go 3 times a week when it's nice weather. I'm really a fair weather cyclist, daylight hours, no rain. But those are our general areas that we go.
I noticed you said we, and so I think we're going to talk a little bit more about who we consists of. And so did you have any comments?
I was going to, yes, you're saying we. Who is we? And when you say riding 3 times a week, like weekends, or do you ride weekdays too? Or how do you get this all together in your busy schedule?
Well, we is either my husband and I or a group of friends. We have kind of helped others in our neighborhood get into cycling. And our numbers are growing, and it makes it a lot more enjoyable for us. During hours when we all work, we're all professionals, we have kids, so we have to work our workouts in to times that work around our schedules. So during the week, it'll be a morning ride before work if it's light enough, and the weekends we usually take advantage of Sunday mornings when there's less traffic and that kind of thing. Once in a while, we'll do a ride after work if there's still enough daylight left.
And you mentioned after work, and we talk about we. As cyclists, we come from all different walks of life, all different professions. My office happened to be in Salem. I'm retired now, and we rode after work when you mentioned after work, and we would do a dinner ride. Well, we learned a lot of lessons about those dinner rides. We'd get off of work, we'd ride so far to, we'd pick a designated restaurant. We'd ride to the restaurant, eat, and then ride back to our cars. Well, when we got to the place where we had dinner, most of us didn't want to get back on our bikes and ride back, so we got smart and we left from the restaurant that we were going to eat at, did the ride, came back, ate, and then our cars were here too. So when you say we're talking about you could be riding with your husband, you could be riding with family members, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about some group rides that you do, and that was the next question was, have you ever ridden with a group? And I think you kind of covered that a little bit.
So how many people do you tend to have? It sounds like you guys have a neighborhood informal bicycle club.
Exactly, yeah. And my husband and I tend to be kind of the ringleaders. My husband is a much better cyclist and has a lot more experience than I do, and he has kind of helped get these people going and introducing them to the sport. And we tend to meet at our house, and it is neighbors. Some people drive, 3 or 4 miles to get to our place, and we seem to have the best starting point for some of these rides. But numbers-wise, there's usually, I would say, 6 to 8 to maybe 10 of us going at a time.
Good group.
That seems to be a nice number for us. And once in a while, it's just the girls or just the guys going out. The permutations differ all the time, which keeps it fun, and you can kind of do different types of rides depending on who's there.
Now you mentioned your husband, and what's his name?
Michael.
Michael, and I think we're going to hear from him later on, and he'll join us in the conversation. So the next question is, do you have beginners in these rides that you do, and the neighborhood rides, and how did you get it started, number one, and then what level of riders do you usually get to turn out for these?
The group rides, we take all levels of riders, and I think what works well for us is everybody kind of agrees on the time and where the distance we're going to cover, and we definitely encourage beginners to come, and when there are beginners, we tend to tailor it to their skill level. The last thing you want to do is discourage someone by taking them on monster hills their first ride, so we tend to do little shorter rides and flatter, and we're all there just to help everybody enjoy it. We tend to try to leave our testosterone at home and just have a great time and instruct and help people learn kind of the rules of the road. And if someone has a flat, everybody's around watching them change it so that everybody can learn at the same time. So it's.
Well, I'm a welcome ride leader for Portland Wheel Mentoring Club, and Ann's in charge of those welcome rides. And I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I learned a very valuable lesson when you talked about all levels of riders and you don't take them out on hard hills. And my experience for leading one of my first welcome rides for new and emerging riders was to say, okay, the ride is going to be 20 miles. But midway through the ride, I said, how many want to try a little bit longer ride? I turned the ride to a 40-mile ride, not realizing that those people are not going to be able to make it back if they get tired. And that's exactly what happened, so we kind of limped back. So you really have to watch out and take good care of your riders, don't you, in a group setting?
Oh, you do, yeah, and that's what keeps it fun. And like I said, if someone wants a harder workout when we get back, they can take off again on their bike if they've got the time. But it's really for the group enjoyment of that morning or that evening ride. So.
I've gone over to Ann's rides, and I noticed that you take very good care of your riders that come out on your welcome rides.
Well, I try to, and with that idea of having fun, I usually tell people at the beginning, if you don't have fun on this bicycle ride, take a minute to think about, why didn't I have fun? Did you not eat breakfast? Is your bicycle not in good shape? You know, what went wrong that you didn't have fun? You have to be a little introspective. And yeah, I think that's part of looking out for them, is this should be fun for you, so figure it out and come back and try it again.
I liked how you pointed out that your bicycle should be in good shape. And we had Hal Ballard on the last show, and he pointed out the ABCs of checking out your bike before a ride, how to properly fit your helmet. And, you know, under 16, you're required to wear a helmet. Over 16, it's your choice, but a very good idea. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I don't go anywhere without a helmet after I've crashed without one the very first time out riding. Well, which brings us to the next thing. What are some of the rules that the people that come out on your ride have to know about, and also what kind of things do they need to know before venturing out on your rides? On our rides?
Yes. You know, the group that we ride with, everybody's kind of in their 40s and 50s. And these are people that are very safety conscious. A lot of them have held back from riding because of worries of safety. So there's no issues as far as wearing helmets. Everybody's got them. You know, we try to make sure there's several spare tubes to go around, and that everybody's tires are well inflated and that kind of thing. Everybody's got water, usually some sort of energy booster you can take with you, you know, cell phones for emergency problems and that kind of thing. So we seem to be pretty well prepared, and we all abide by, you know, we stop at stop signs and stop lights, the obvious things, and try to communicate while we're riding, just some of the hand signals and getting the lingo down about, you know, approaching cars or cars coming from behind and that kind of thing. And those are fun things to teach people how you really can communicate when you're riding with a group.
Absolutely.
And effectively do that.
I think that's very important, that some motorists observing a group may not realize that we do talk to each other in these groups. And we have things that we're responsible for if we're riding in the beginning of the pack or if we're riding in the back of the pack. And so it's very important to know what that language is, what the rules of the road. And I guess Carlo De Lupa was on our show one time from Portland Velo, and I think he described it best as road etiquette, is what it sounds like. Very important, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and we try to teach that to the little kids on the family rides too, because we're using multi-use paths, and to try to teach them to share, use their voices. If they feel comfortable letting go of their handlebars, to use their hands to signal things like we're talking about, to point out glass or any hazards in the path. But sometimes even a new adult rider isn't quite ready to let go of those handlebars early on.
Well, I ride with a Monday morning group, and they call themselves the senior rollers, and the average age of the group is 60. But we do have some 55-year-olds, and one of our rides we even had some younger people. My son-in-law and my daughter came out on one of the rides. And one of the things that we looked at was being consistent with having people learn how to communicate with each other. This particular group happens to be part of the Beaverton Optimist Club. And it turned out to be a really fun ride. And as we ride, we increase the level of our ride. So if you start out slow like we did, then you can take the longer rides. Our last ride was just this past Monday, and we did the Springwater Corridor, and we went out for, you know, new guys. We went almost all the way to Gresham, and then we turned around and came back. What a fun ride. But one thing we did the whole time was we communicated with each other. Now, you mentioned also that you carry spare tubes and things like that. So if one person on your ride has a flat, then everybody has one, basically. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's the way the wheelmen approach it, too. Isn't that true?
Yes. You know, be self-sufficient, be ready for anything. But the cell phone, that's a great new innovation, too, for safety.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what kind of gear am I going to show up riding in? You find them riding in all sorts of things until they realize that you can get some functional gear to ride
Sure, sure. Yeah, you know, the first few rides without, you know, padded shorts, it sends a message home pretty strongly, especially if you're on the saddle for a while, that those are really beneficial. And then shoes. You know, people will start out with non-clip-in shoes, and that's fine. They'll just find that the efficiency of clip-ins are something they'll benefit from. I think the other thing to point out is that in these group rides, we always stick together. We're not stretching out, which I think is another way of cycling etiquette, is by keeping your group concise and together. It helps the motorists. If they're not sitting there waiting for people to kind of straggle through. If you're all going through a intersection together, I think it's safer, and it's really nicer for the motorists too.
Not like some of the rides that I've led where, you know, at the beginning of the ride we give a brief orientation of what each rider can expect, and then I look around, I go, whoa, we're surrounded by a lot of hammers too. And I go, well, you know, if you came out to hammer, this is the wrong ride. You can help these people who are, by, you know, if they have questions, let them experience your ride so that they can improve. And they will ask questions about gear and a better bicycle, clothing, all those things. But when you have this breakaway group, it doesn't help very much because they're not going to have anyone to talk to.
Exactly.
We have a caller on the line. Can you state your name? They are telling me we have a caller on the line. Caller?
Hello?
Yes. Can you state your name, please?
This is Mike Daggett.
And Mike, I guess we were expecting a call from you to join our conversation. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
And you happen to be?
Marilyn's husband.
That's what I thought. We were expecting a call from you. Well, Marilyn gives you most of the credit for all of the riding that she's been doing. We haven't gotten into some of the harder rides that she's doing yet, but would you like to chime in at this point on some of the things that have been said already?
Oh, I wasn't able to log on to the computer or to the television screen, so I haven't been able to listen to the conversation so far.
Okay. Well, Marilyn, why don't you ask Mike some questions and he can chime in?
Sure.
Well, we were just going to start talking to some of the organized rides, and Mike, I'm very proud of. He just finished Cycle Oregon, and maybe you could share some of your experiences of this past week and what were the highlights of that ride?
And we heard about that. And so, yeah, can you share that with our viewers?
Absolutely. Yeah, this was my first time doing Cycle Oregon, and I chose it due to the scenery, and I'd heard great things about the ride in the past, and I knew the course this year was going to be through some gorgeous countryside, a bit challenging over the mountains. So I took it on, and it was definitely challenging, but it was very rewarding. The camaraderie of the groups that participated. There were approximately 2,300 riders, and it was a kind of refreshing too to see that the average age was almost 50 years old, which I fit right in. So I was kind of
that's right.
A bunch of crazy riders like myself, but yeah, it was quite the event, and it's a good opportunity to see some different parts of the country that you'd otherwise not see. So
I did 2 Cycle Oregons myself, and the last one I went to Crater Lake, and I understand that Crater Lake was included in this ride. Is that right?
Yes, it was. Yes, we spent the night in Diamond Lake at the campground there, and then we rode up to Crater Lake and did a ride around the lake and then back down. And we were fortunate this past week to have just gorgeous weather, and it was just beautiful.
When you said being fortunate you had good weather, I can relate to that because we did the ride around the same time in '05, and I think it was '05 anyway. It was either '05 or it was '05. And they were snowed in, and there was hail, sleet, it was freezing. The rained in all directions, and we had headwinds going in both directions, and they closed the crater.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and the ones that made it up to the top of the rim could not get back down on their own, and they had to be sagged down. So when you say that you had great weather, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, in Oregon in September it can be iffy at times, and I actually spoke to some people on the ride who shared similar stories over the years where they've had beautiful weather, and then weather like you described, which is all part of the experience, I guess. You know, it makes it interesting.
Now, we were talking about the group ride that you have that start in your neighborhood.
Yes.
And so Marilyn shared some things about that, and it seems like you guys ride in the same fashion as organized clubs. I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah, it's our kind of our own little neighborhood club, but it continues to grow, and just our neighbors see us out riding, and you know see what enjoyment we're getting out of it. So they have slowly joined the group and are kind of learning the ropes along with us, and it's real enjoyable. That's a part of the enjoyment of cycling, is to share it with friends and neighbors.
And so, did you have any questions for Mike?
Well, was the extent of your training then these group rides for Cycle Oregon, or do you do some other riding as well?
I commute to work sometimes on my bicycle, depending on the weather. I like to do that as opposed to driving. I just ride for the general enjoyment and the camaraderie, for the most part.
Sorry, Mike, we have a caller waiting. I just wanted to acknowledge to Julie that we do know that you're holding on the line, and we will get right to you as soon as we finish with Mike. Did you have any other comments that you wanted to make regarding the riding experience that you've had?
Well, I've ridden for over 30 years, I've different areas of the country, but I think Portland in particular is so bicycle friendly, and I just, I think it's great for people to get out and ride and enjoy the outdoors that we have here, and just the variety of riding that's available to us.
Well, we appreciate you calling in. We are going to be talking about some of the trips that you and Marilyn have taken. So if you want to later on call back in and chime in on some of that, feel free. Are you able to pick us up right now live on Channel 11?
Okay, sounds great.
And then that way you just turn your TV down and you can still be involved in the conversation. And so we'd appreciate another call back from you.
Sounds good.
All right, and thank you for calling.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Julie, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm actually Marilyn and Mike's neighbor.
Aha.
And I have just started cycling, and I'm wondering what is the most important thing a cyclist should know in getting a new bike?
Well, the first thing you want to do is get a bike that fits, and that's in size. This next thing, you want to be able to get a bike that's suitable for the type of ride that you want to do. So you want to identify the type of ride. I'll let Ann chime in a little bit on that as well.
I think Bruce is making some good points. You can certainly go to garage sales and yard sales and find a bicycle for cheap. But the important thing is, does the frame fit your body? If you're a petite woman, you're going to want a smaller frame than a big guy. And so that's really key to your overall enjoyment. Certainly what you have to consider what kind of riding you're going to do. Are you going to be mountain bike riding? Maybe you want a mountain bike. Maybe you're going to commute to work and you want more of a commuter bike or a hybrid bike. Or are you going to do road riding? Are you thinking about doing a Cycle Oregon in your future and get a road bike? So there's a lot of great bike shops in Portland, and there's a lot of experienced people that can help you answer some of these questions, and you can go on the internet and research different brands of bikes and see what the prices tend to be and what features they have. But certainly that's a place to start, and just talk to a good bike shop person.
So Julie, are you riding in Marilyn and Mike's neighborhood rides right now?
Well, actually, I'm not. My husband started and came back and said they are so much fun. And so my husband and I've actually taken just a couple of longer rides. And so I'm looking forward to the group ride when that comes up.
I believe you've picked a very good place to start. Those community rides will open your eyes. They'll give you the experience of getting out on the road. And as Marilyn has pointed out and Ann has pointed out, you'll learn a little bit about the road etiquette. And the more you learn, the more you represent the other cyclists out there who don't do that. I mean, the thing of it is motorists appreciate that, especially when you signal your intentions. That's one of the big complaints that we hear about all the time, is that cyclists don't signal. Well, a lot of motorists don't either, but with cyclists, it's even more critical, because if you don't signal your intent and then you impact a vehicle, a motor vehicle, you're going to lose every time. So those are the kinds of things that you learn in these community groups. And so what kind of things can you share with Julie about your rides?
Oh, I'm looking forward to having her join us for one. I mean, we enjoy having her husband, of course, and I think just to remember it's fun, and don't be intimidated by the group. As we were all, you know, there with our new bikes at one point too, and so just remember you're with friends, and we just love having great people with us. So
I think Marilyn said it best when we were talking before the show, that, and I asked her, what is the main thing a person would bring to your ride? She said there are two things: bring a cheerful countenance and a sense of having fun. And I think that just hits the nail on the head.
I think that's the great thing about riding as an adult. It really takes you back to like you're 12 years old, except you're more responsible,
Right.
and you know. But it really does make you feel like a child again. And I think just riding on the weekends, to me, is like a getaway. Like I got away from home and went on a mini vacation, and I'm so much more refreshed going back to work.
absolutely.
Now we come down to some more social rides. Do you have any other questions or comments for either Marilyn or Ann or myself?
No, I don't, and I really appreciate the feedback. It's fun, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
I hope that I can get out on one of those rides myself. I'd love to get an invitation to one of those. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It really does.
Well, thank you for calling, and good luck with selecting a bicycle. And I think Ann has given you some good information that could steer you in the right direction for your riding experience.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, we have another group that we call the West Side Slow Spokes, and that's part of the Portland Wheelman Touring Club. And that's for riders who want to ride the longer distances, but they don't want to ride at 20, 22 miles an hour. You can anticipate finding someone to ride with within the group, and if you want to go 13 to 15 miles an hour, you can find that, and which we've had quite frequently. You've been out on our rides. And I think it works very well, and it sounds like that's what you're doing with these new and emerging riders, just riders right there in your own neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I think you should be applauded for that. Also, you can connect with some other rides out there through Portland Wheelman Touring Club, through the Portland Velo. They have rides that are not just on the west side, but they have them on the east side too. And the Aloha Bicycle Club, there's another place to connect to. We have another caller on the line, and this is Jimmy, is that right?
Yes, it is, Jimmy. Good evening.
You have a question or comment for our guest?
You made reference to the Springwater Corridor, and last Sunday, I usually go to the Springwater Corridor, and this time I said I would like to venture off after the point where it seems to stop on the west, and so I climbed up Mount Scott, which was okay, except that with all the cars going uphill quite steeply and spewing fumes in your face is not very pleasant. Now, you said that in your group you cycled through the Springwater Corridor through Gresham. Can you give me a brief illumination as to what happens after the trail seemingly ends around near Johnson Creek or something like that, if I can ask you the question?
Okay, well, we started our ride from the Skidmore Fountain. And we went to the waterfront, and you hook a left, go over the steel bridge, and then you ride along the Esplanade. And once you've gotten past the Esplanade, you're riding past the past OMSI.
Excuse me, that is always clear. After the Esplanade, after the Selwood Bridge, you turn left to the three bridges and so forth.
Not the Selwood Bridge, the steel bridge.
Yeah, yes, I know, but I'm already in. Now I'm already in. I don't want to take much of your time here. Is the trail complete from Springwater to Gresham, or you have to go through a section that goes on streets?
Well, there is one section from, not OMSI, but from Oaks Park, that you have to go on the street for just a few blocks, and then you pick the trail up again over by Johnson Creek. And then it continues on without any kind of break in the path all the way to Gresham. And where we stop is generally, when I do that ride with other groups, we stop at the Jazzy Bagel right there in Gresham. But you can continue on to Boring, too, from there.
Okay.
Part of that you'd be riding.
You have answered my question. I will try to find out, because I always, after I get after the bridges on the trail, and after almost at Southeast 82nd, I'm lost. I cannot find it.
Well, if you reach Southeast 82nd and you've been on the trail continues on across Southeast 82nd. There's no
it's
break
a bike
there.
trail, specialized bike trail.
Yeah, the bike trail continues on, and I've walked it too with Volkswalkers, and so it does continue. I don't know where you ended up, how you missed the trail there.
Thank you very much. Good show. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you for calling. Now, you've been on the Springwater Corridor quite a few times yourself?
Yes, different parts.
So do you understand where it is he's getting turned around?
I'm afraid I don't. My suggestion would be to try to go to a bike shop and get one of the more current City of Portland bicycle maps. I think some of the more current ones do have the 3 bridges in there, and making that connection, which is a little difficult if you've not done it. And it does have the Springwater Corridor. But a map, to me, that's the way to go.
You can start at different points, and if you start at the waterfront and then go over the Steel Bridge, and then connect to the Esplanade, that's going to lead you to the trailhead that runs behind Oaks Park.
Yes.
So that's a few miles. Then they've completed a new section where you can cross over the tracks where the tracks are.
Yes.
And then that's a new path that takes you to Umatilla. And when you get to Umatilla, you'll see a sign that directs you to 0.7 miles to the trailhead that takes you through Johnson Creek and then on out to Gresham. And there's no break after that. So yeah, there are maps out there. You might go on Smart Trips on the City of Portland's website, and they may have some maps. I know they have maps because I've ordered their maps of different rides. And I think you could find a map to that. And there are different places where you can start and different jump-off points. And so speaking of rides and longer rides, if I'm not mistaken, your first long ride was at Reach the Beach.
Yes, it was Reach the Beach.
And how did you prepare for that, and tell us what that riding experience was like?
Yeah, I don't remember the preparation. I'm sure I did a little bit. And we didn't do the Century the first time. We did I think it was 55 miles from Amity. But I did it with a girlfriend and her son, and we had a great time. And it was kind of one of the first organized true bike rides. I've been on a couple bridge pedal rides, but this was one that seemed like a bigger step for me. And just kind of getting over that 50-mile hump, I think, was big.
Yeah.
And you've done Reach the Beach a few times.
I've done it, I think once, from Amity. And yeah, there's just something about those event rides and the excitement that you just get your adrenaline going, just because there's so many other cyclists doing the same thing with you, and it's just very happy.
I love the spectacle of them. I've done Reach the Beach and many other centuries, and it's okay if you just start out with one of the shorter distances on those rides and work your way up to a metric century, for example. And that brings us to when you did the Reach the Beach ride. After that, not too long after that, you started doing some awesome rides. And we have a photo gallery, if they can get ready to cue that up. And you can describe the photo and what it represents as far as your riding experience. We'll give them a few moments to bring up the first one. And I think the first one is in regards to the Tahoe trip. Are we ready for that yet? No? Oh, I don't know. We're not ready for that yet. So we will move on. We will talk about. Oh, we got it. Oh my goodness, there we are. So here's a group, and this is not your neighborhood group. They look like they are ready for some serious business. Tell us about what this ride was.
This was this year, June of '07, and it's the ride around Lake Tahoe. And it's an incredible ride. There are some interesting things about this ride. You have to remember it is at altitude. Lake Tahoe is significantly above sea level, and this is my husband and I taking a rest on that ride.
I actually wanted to know who was in that group. Can you tell us?
The previous group was my husband's daughter and her boyfriend, and then one of my best friends, Vicki, and her husband. So we encouraged people from here to drive down with us, or actually they flew down, we drove their bikes down, and we met Mike's daughter down there with her boyfriend, and we all did it together.
They're flipping through those photos a lot faster than we're getting to the content, but don't worry, we'll work around, we'll work with them here. And so I see in the background here, this says Twin Lakes, and where is that?
This is actually in the San Juan Islands. It's on Orcas Island. This was one of the first real true rides I took with my husband. He was my fiance at the time. And we got on the ferry with our bikes. We left our cars at the ferry terminal and took the bikes on the ferry over to Orcas and rode the island for the weekend.
Now I notice you have a road bike, and that looks like a real fancy bike, and it's built for these long rides.
Yes, it is. It's a great bike. And
now Bud Rice has, he's a Portland Wheelman ride leader, and he has the San Juan's ride. Have you ever taken his ride?
I did his San Juan rides this past summer, yeah. We kind of did the same thing. Left our cars at Anacortes and went over to the San Juans and rode Lopez, San Juan, and Orcas Islands.
And so what are some of the other long distance rides you've taken?
A couple years ago I did the first Live Strong ride, and I've done Tahoe twice. There's the Monster Cookie ride, which is the metric century. That's one of the early rides.
I'm familiar with that one. I did that 6 times, and every year they had that big cookie except for one year. The delivery truck got lost, and those of us that came in early didn't get our cookie.
Disappointing.
A little resentment there, Bruce.
And when they say monster cookie, they're not kidding. I could have handled 2 of them.
Oh, sure, after that ride.
But that ride could be done really by a person who hasn't really ridden a whole lot, but is in some basic, decent condition. Is that right?
Yeah, it's relatively flat, and it is early for me. It's in April, so it's kind of the start of the cycling event season, which is it's a nice warm up.
And kind of gets you ready, a warm up ride to some other things. And so, what would be your other favorite ride after doing the Monster Cookie ride?
The Vine ride is a lot of fun. That's typically in August, and I think it's a lot of the Cycle Oregon people do it. Cycle Oregon people, those that are training for that event, do it. And it's just real pretty country out in the wine country of Oregon, and it was a little bit challenging, usually because of the weather. I remember it was probably near 100 the year I did it.
Oh, wow.
So we had to really hydrate, but you know, it's just something different, a different challenge, and it's just a real sense of accomplishment finishing one of those.
You said something important there, hydration being the key if you're going to be riding at all, but especially on a real hot day.
Oh, yeah.
Are you carrying water bottles, a Camelback? I mean, how do you like to prepare for that?
I don't have a Camelback. I usually have 2 water bottles. And on these supported rides, usually about every 15, 20 miles, there's refreshments. There's places you can refuel your water bottles. But you typically want to go through at least 1 bottle every hour. Is kind of the recommendation. So for me, I have to be real cognizant of that and really remember to do that, because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's something to be telling new riders. I've been forgetting to do that with my welcome rides, and to remind people to drink, because you're right, that makes a huge difference in how you feel.
Don't put your water bottle on your bike and take your water bottle for a ride.
That's right,
without drinking any of the water. Okay. Well, there was some other questions that we had regarding your rides, and one of them was, have you ever done the Spring Century or the Pioneer Century that the Wheelman put on?
No.
Have you tried that one yet?
I have not.
That seems to be a good ride to get ready for the STP. And so that is my question. Have you done the STP yet?
No, I haven't.
Do you have any aspirations about that?
I'm considering it, yeah.
The reason I ask is because that's probably one of my favorite rides.
Is that right?
I've done that one about 6 times, and then I became a one-day rider in that event. And I'm going to do it again with another group next year in 2-day, because this will be their first time.
Sure.
But what is your apprehension about doing it maybe this year?
You know, a lot of it is probably the time commitment. It depends on scheduling things. But to be honest, it's the total mileage.
Yeah.
You know, it would be another leap for me, which is something I should, you know, push myself towards. But, you know, getting to that century mark was one great goal, and getting beyond is probably something I should consider.
So how about this? You ride the San Juans and around Tahoe a couple of times and reach the beach. I think you're in pretty good shape already.
We'll see. I have
Yeah.
till what, next July to train?
Yeah,
So,
you do.
okay.
And their training schedule, for those of you who know about the Seattle to Portland bike ride, it's really a great spectacle with about almost 10,000 riders out there. And they give you a training schedule on their website that you can start somewhere around February or March. And if you follow that schedule, they start you out really slow. By the time you get to the end of that training schedule, you are in pretty good shape. And we're not talking about doing any big grandiose rides to start out. So I think you know, give that a shot. That is one of my favorite rides and a good goal that I had. And
Yeah, I've
feed
been it
you
several
well.
times. Yeah, every 15 miles.
There's
Yes,
some.
You're
anything-
eating.
Yeah.
There's a lot of food. I'm in. Now, we are to the last one is about, you were loading some bikes in one of these, but we don't have that one up. But you had some gear on. You were wearing a yellow jacket, and that's part of some functional cycling gear.
Absolutely.
And so
yeah.
are those the kind of things that the people that are learning about that are out on your rides?
Yeah, we're quite heavy in yellow neon on our group rides, which isn't the most flattering color. Well, here we are. This is my friend Vicki and I right before the Tahoe ride. But you know, it just makes sense to be visible as you can be. And we do this. We have, you know, blinkies, lights all over us.
Right.
We tend not to be ever riding when it's dark. Just not many of us commute. But yeah, it's just part of being safe.
See and be seen. I think that's a great way to go. Well, we've reached that part of our program where we're going to have Ann's Corner, where Ann is going to tell us about some things that are going on around town. And so, take it away, Ann.
Well, all right. Well, coming up this weekend, I just got an email today about a ride that's coming up through Portland Velo. I'm just going to read this because I'm not that familiar with it myself. But as part of the Washington County Bicycle Safety Campaign, which is at www.andwebike.com, Portland Velo has organized a ride this Saturday, which is September 22nd, at 9 a.m. at Long Bottom Coffee off Evergreen Parkway in Hillsborough. It's Complete Tim's Ride is an organized ride to raise awareness and promote bike safety. The ride will retrace the route that Tim O'Donnell took before his tragic death last June. Featuring a silent start led by the riders who are with Tim, the ride will also pass a ghost bike at the location where Tim was killed. There are 51 and 35-mile options at a varying pace. So you can go to portlandvelo.net and probably get the information you need if you'd like to participate in that ride. There's other rides coming up in the near future too. In the last weekend of September, the 29th and 30th, Portland Wheelman has some family rides, and these are good if the weather's nice and you want to bring your children out, older adults that are just barely getting back into cycling, trying to figure out what their fitness level is and that sort of thing. These rides are 9 to 10 miles at the most. They're usually out and back, so if you can't make the whole distance, you can double back and go back to your car. The Vancouver Bicycle Club has some beginner rides as well. It looks as if they have them every other Saturday out by Vancouver Lake, which is a really flat area, and they're about 10 miles in distance as well. And they're beginners rides, so they would help you if you're interested in getting started in cycling. In my opinion, you know, summer is winding down, but there's still plenty of good cycling time left. It's not winter yet, so don't quit yet if you want to get started. I'm offering a welcome ride on the 30th, and that's in Clark County, Vancouver, Washington. And if you go to pwtc.com, that's on September 30th, and it's a 30-mile ride. It's a group ride. If you can ride a little bit further than maybe a family ride, I'd encourage you to come out and join me, and we'll hopefully be able to teach you a little bit more about cycling. The Salem Bicycle Club has Peach of a Century coming up on the 23rd of September, and if you've been riding a lot this summer and want to do a century, which is 100 miles, come on out for that. And it's a great ride put on by the Salem Bicycle Club. There's lots of fun seasonal rides coming up. The Verboort Sausage Ride, the Tour of the Tombstones. There's, you know, bicycling doesn't end just because it's winter. So it's a good time to keep your base that maybe you built up in the summer and just come out and keep riding. And along that note, though, the days are getting shorter, and as Marilyn was talking about, being visible, lights. If you're not a commuter, maybe you kind of are getting caught off guard these evenings when it gets dark so soon. So be sure and go to the bike shop if you don't have any lights. Talk to the people at the bike shop and get the best equipment you can get. And it is the law. You have to have a reflector on the back of your bike, although a light probably is better, and also a white light in front. So legally, you need, just as if you were driving your car, if you're going to turn on your headlights, you need a light on your bicycle as well.
Well, thank you, Ann, for that very fine report. And I'll tell you, you mentioned one of my favorite rides, too, is that Verboort sausage ride. I've done it every year for I don't know how many years. Now, I love the sausage. As you know, they're handmade sausages. I used to eat 2 of them, but since I've lost 54 pounds, I stick to just one. And one a year, it's not going to hurt me too bad. I would also had something else that I needed to mention on here, is that we have Dick Skelton appearing on our next show, which is October 16th. And at some point in the program, our director will put up the schedule of the next shows, and probably toward the end. We only have about 12 minutes left of airtime for us to chat before we do our wrap-up, but you will be able to tune in on some of the future shows. One's going to be with Dick Skelton October 16th. November 20th is Carlo DeLupa, Dan Kaufman, Greg Raisman, and our co-host will be returning, Ann Morrow. And December 18th is going to be a special Christmas show. And we want you to tune in for that one because Santa will be here. And we're talking about the real deal. And he's going to be here with some of the kids that will be receiving some gifts from Santa. So now we're at another, the last part of our show, or the last segment, which we had several things that we could talk about.
Sure.
And I'm going to leave this up to you. You do some cross-training that is interesting. You also have some nutritional tips that for your personal ones. And we were talking about some vegetarian foods. And I think we're going to have to get to that in just a moment because we have another caller on the line.
Okay.
And Mike, how are you?
Hello, Bruce.
Yes, and I guess you called to chime in on some of the long-distance rides.
Yes. You know, a lot of the ones that you spoke about, and I've done the STP too, which I think is a great ride, and I'll have to get Marilyn to do that next year. But I also was listening to the, the conversation of the gentleman who was asking about directions and the spring water corridor, and I think the suggestion was to go to a bike shop and use one of those maps that they provide, which they have out there for the metropolitan area, and those are excellent sources for people who want to design their own rides or ride around Portland. I would suggest that for any new riders or even seasoned riders to pick safe courses, and those are excellent for that. And also the visibility. I bike commute sometimes at night, and definitely if you do that, to have good lighting and to wear the bright colors like Marilyn suggested, and just a couple little tips for new riders.
I agree with you. I ride at night, and one of the things is I like to have 2 lights on the back, a reflector and a light on the front. And I do have a helmet light that I will put on during the fall and winter. Also, there are some public service announcements that are going to be coming up, and you're going to see a lot of them from different organizations that will give you some other tips about riding in inclement weather. Not only to see and be seen, but how to safely navigate the roads, being cognizant or aware of painted surfaces, manhole covers, debris, wet leaves. There's all sorts of things that you have to look out for, because since we are responsible for our own safety, those are things we need to educate ourselves about. And we can't hit the road without the book that's put out by Ray Thomas called Pedal Power. And this is the ultimate legal guide for the Oregon bicyclist. If you want one of these, send us an email at nwbc@comcast.net, and we'll see to it that you get one of these while they last. And I think every cyclist should have one of these. And it could be good for motorists, too. So, Mike, any other comments or questions that you might have regarding yours and Maryland's cycling experience?
No, it's kind of evolving. Our group keeps growing, and people are just discovering the joys of cycling, and you know, we're just enjoying spending time with them and learning as we go. But we continue to expand our rides that we're trying out, and hopefully we'll have some new events this next year, including STP, hopefully.
Well, I'll be on STP next year, and I'm sure I'll see you out there.
Sounds good.
I would love to get at least one invitation to your community rides. I'd enjoy that.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind, I'd love to bring my family, too.
You got it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you calling in. And we have about 8 minutes, and 8 of those minutes are going to be, only 6 are going to belong to you in your last topic.
Okay.
And now they're telling me we've got 5 minutes talk time. So which topic would you like to address? Either the cross-training, nutrition and hydration, or vegetarian foods?
You know, I think I'll talk about the cross-training. You know, I'm approaching 50.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes more important as you get older to change things and try new activities and keep all your muscle groups happy and fit, and just get out of any sort of boredom ruts you might be in with certain activities. And you know, starting cycling has been great. My husband also introduced me to kayaking, which I've done a little bit before, but this year we really did some wonderful trips. And then taking care of the harder aspects for me, which is the stretching and doing some yoga, doing some even Pilates classes and things that as you get older, your flexibility decreases and you forget to use some of those muscles until you realize after you've been gardening all day that they've woken up and you haven't been paying attention to them. So I think, you know, it keeps you feeling stronger, keeps you feeling younger, keeps your posture better. Just all those little things that all those muscles that influence how we even appear and how we function throughout our day. And I want to still be strong into my 50s and still be able to do those things that I enjoy.
Well, if you're approaching your 50s and this cycling and kayaking and running is working for you, I want to sign up.
Okay. Well, you know, I think 50 used to be the new 40. Now I'm shooting for the new 30.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So what are your cross-training activities, Ann?
Well, I've been doing a lot of bicycling this year. My husband comes and goes with the cycling, and so we've cycled a lot. I play soccer.
Good for you.
And I had not played that when I was growing up. Girls didn't play sports, so that's been new for me. And I go to the gym and lift weights, and run on a treadmill and that sort of thing. So I mix it up a little too.
Yeah.
You guys sound like you're in such good shape. I wouldn't want to piss you off. You might beat me up. I'm telling you, you guys are in real fabulous shape. Well, the other thing that you have to do in order to be in good cycling condition or involved in any activity is you have to feed those muscles and feed your body.
Yeah.
So maybe we can at least touch on a little bit about what kind of foods that might work for that, in your opinion.
Yeah, well, when you're going out on a ride, it's a little bit different for me anyway, and this is maybe a lot of personal experience. I can't eat at all before I run. Just my digestive system doesn't handle that, but cycling, I think, is a little bit more forgiving. And so I, try to eat something, maybe an hour before I go. And usually it's a higher carbohydrate type food source. While you're cycling, hour and a half into it, you probably need some sort of carbohydrate to refuel, whether it's Gatorade or a banana or something like that. And then I try to pay attention to that time immediately following your ride. They say, these studies have shown that if you eat something with protein within that first 90 minutes, your recovery is going to be better. You're going to build strength instead of lose it by muscle breakdown. So those are the things I pay attention to around the time of the ride.
So you want to eat before you're hungry and drink before you're thirsty on long rides. That's probably a good idea.
Exactly.
Well, we have the schedule ready to put up of our upcoming shows, and we only have a few minutes left in the program. And so this kind of gives you a view of the schedule that I read off to you earlier. I think every one of those shows promises to be a very good and informative show. And you know, Dick Scoutton's been on the show before. And as a government official, I'm telling you, he's really a genuine guy. In fact, he led us on my very first Banks Vernonia Trail ride and Fano Creek Trail. So when you talk about trails, there are so many out there to explore, and there are so many people that know how to take you along on these rides. So upcoming shows, October 16th, November 20th, and December 18th. We hope to see you then. Please tune in. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to our crew. These guys have done a fantastic job, and this is the first time we've had a little audience out there, and I mean very little audience. This is a call-in show, but we haven't typically had an audience, and it's kind of nice to see one of our executive board members here, and we have another executive board member who works on the crew, Jacqueline Sinke, and Dennis and crew. Dennis Gleason has been our director for some time now, and there they are in the booth. We have 3 cameramen out here, and we have a floor director who is just really on fire out there and keeping us informed as to how much time we have left, and I think we're running out of it pretty soon here. I'd like to also say that remember that you're responsible for your own safety. You want to obey the law. Pay attention to your surroundings, and please share the road. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Do you have any parting words in the last 60 seconds or so?
Boy, Bruce, you've really covered most everything. I think the other thing that maybe we didn't touch on that I've really learned to appreciate is eye contact with the motorists. Don't assume they see you. I mean, you almost have to wait and look for them to look you in the eye before you start through an intersection and that kind of thing.
And thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And Ann.
I think we've gotten a lot of good information, especially for newer riders. I think it's been a lot of good things covered this evening.
And are we going to see you back on the next show?
Absolutely. I'll be back.
We have about a minute left. And so, any other parting words from either one of you? Drop us a line, Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, www.nwbicyclesafetycouncil.org. You'll find our email address on there. Drop us a line. And if you are in need of a helmet and know someone who is in need of a helmet, please put a request in and we'll see that they get one. We can get them through Trauma Nurses Talk Tough, Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, and one of our biggest supporters in sponsoring helmets is Portland Wheelman Touring Club. So between those 3 organizations, we'll make sure we get a helmet in your hands. So this is Bruce Buffington, looking forward to seeing you on our next show, October 16th. Tune in with our guest, Dick Scoutton, Washington County Commissioner, and we hope to see you then.